Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm Ellie from Ellie G Art Designs. So at the request of many of my viewers, I am going to do a how I mix my paints. So I've got I'm going to make four different ways of mixing, and just try and give examples of how I would color mix, how I would do a metallic and just a plain color at the same time. So what I've got today, this is going to be a base color, and I've got this color called Periwinkle. I hope you can see that, from Global. Now the reason why I'm using this is because when I went to the shop to buy white, they had run out. So this is a good way to sort of, you know, when you can't get the color you want, you can actually make colors by joining other colors. So this is a really pale purpley color, and I'm going to use the yellow, so the cool yellow, and just put a little bit of that in to this to create a bit of a beigey color. So when you think about it, purple's made up of red and blue, which is the two primary colors, even though there's a lot of white in that. So you get your purple. Adding a little bit of yellow is going to give it a beige color. That's the plan. All right, so that's going to be my base color, and I'll show you how I do that. I'm also going to be using impasto color turquoise from Global, a beautiful color, and that's just going to be the straightforward, straight out of the jar mix. And then I'm going to make a mixture of my cool blue, also from Global, along with my metallic pearl. All right, so just to show you how you can actually make a really pretty shimmering paint just by joining two together. I do that a lot. It's amazing how many different variations of a beautiful shimmery color that you can make. And if you've watched my channel, you would see a lot of my custom colors that are shimmery is because I've taken a plain color and used this metallic pearl. I can't get enough of this color. It's just great. And then I'm just going to use the Pebeo Studio Acrylics, and this is metallic, and it is an iridescent gold. So I love this gold. I use it a lot in my paintings, and it plays really nicely with Global paints. Well, I find Pebeo tends to be friends with all the paint brands, which is really nice. So I do have to watch what paints I use in each painting. So there you go. All right, I'm going to start with my base color and show you how I do that. Okay, so my base color is it's the only color that I would actually add a different chemical to. So I do use Australian Floetrol with Global. I won't use it with Amsterdam paints if I want a base color. I might use it with Amsterdam paints if I want a cell activator, because that's just magic. But for Global paints, it doesn't oversell up when you put Australian Floetrol with that. So that's just, I don't know how easy Global paints are to buy overseas. You could check with Amazon. I'm sure they probably sell them. I don't know if they're in your shops from overseas, but it's really easy for me to buy these, and they're so cost effective. Most of my Dutch pours, I use this and I get incredible results. And if you're talking, this is a 500 ml jar. This only costs me 15 Australian dollars. So in comparison, if I was to buy an Amsterdam paint of this same quantity, it's going to cost me nearly $45. So that's the difference. So the markup is really ridiculous. So, and it's probably got a lot to do with the importing, you know, an overseas brand into Australia. Let's face it, we're the furthest country from any other country. So it probably costs a lot in transport. So Australian paints work for me. I still use Amsterdam paints, but I don't always use them for the amount of paintings I do. All right, okay, so I'll just take the lids off. Very yellow, and new jar. And this beautiful light purple. It might even just look white in your screen. I'm not sure if it's picking up the color, but it's a beautiful lavender sort of color. And I've got to say, I actually really like the smell of these paints. No, I don't do that to get my kicks, but it has actually got a really sweet smell to them. I don't know what's in it, but it's really lovely. So now there's no magic formula, because every can you open or every jar you open, they can have different consistencies to each other, and I'll show you that a little bit. Like you can see, I can just about pour that in. Yeah, so I'm going to pour about that much in to start with. It's always good to go in little stages, because if you put too much and then you realize it's too thick, you run out of room in your container, and yeah, all sorts of things. And I'm just going to put one little dash, because could be a powerful color. All right, so I don't want too much, I just want to tint it a little bit. So I might just try with that little bit. All right, and I'm going to stir to start the stirring process. Now you can see it's actually made it quite yellow, so I probably put too much already, but that's okay, because you know what's missing, you just add more of something else. So I don't know if you can see that color, but that's a little too yellow for me. I probably should have put a little bit less, but that's okay. I've still got a lot more in the cup to change. Actually, it's not too bad. I don't know if you can see that color, but it is a very, almost like a really pastel lemon color, which just goes to show how much white is in this. But I'm going to put a little bit more of this. There's no measurement. I can't tell you what to put it to. Just leave room in your container for adding the other stuff that needs to go in there. So more mixing. If the paint's too thick and you're mixing but it's not blending because it's just too thick, I just start adding a little bit of water. My water that I use, it just comes out of the tap. I think we've got pretty good water here in Australia. There's a lot of process going towards its purification. Maybe, you know, others may not agree with that, but I'm quite okay with just using water from the tap. So that colour's starting to look a bit better as I've added a little bit more purple. And it's a nice cream colour, I like that. All right, so once I've got the colour that I'm happy with, I'm now just extending the volume and looking for the right consistency. I actually really love that. It's a really nice cream colour now. As you can see, it's gone from that to that. Maybe still a little bit yellow, but I'll probably find I will add a little bit more. Or what I might do is, might do that now because it is still a little bit on the yellow side. Got my blue here. So I am making this up as I go, as in there is no recipe. I'm eyeballing my colour. I can see that it's more lemon than it is a beigey colour. So I am just going to, I'm looking for my other paddle stick. I don't want to use these other clean ones, but sometimes I just use the end of this. Really little bit of blue, and I'm going to throw that in there, and it's just going to take away some of that yellow tone. Again, just little increments of things, so you know, so you don't overdo it. Like I said, I probably should have used a little less yellow to start with, but you know, you're not sure exactly what it's going to do until you start doing it. So I'm mixing. It's looking very blue. Sometimes it takes a while to get the colour you're actually after. Now it actually looks like a really minty green. Can you see that? So it is hard to sometimes get the colour, but you just keep at it until you get the colour you want. So I'm looking at that and saying, oh, that's really green. I didn't want green. So now, you know, green is made up of yellow and blue. So what I need to now do to get it back to more of a beigey colour, it's not bad, but it's not the colour I'm looking for. So now all I need to do is add a little smidge of red, right? Because that's the colour that's missing. I need to go get my red though. Just a minute. Okay, so here's my red. Glue it off. This is just cool red. And I'm going to be very careful how much I put in. It's amazing just how a little bit. Have you ever gone and bought house paint for your house? And, you know, you pick the colour off the wall that you want them to tint your paint to. And the amount is so small that they put into this massive can, and yet it creates this incredible colour. So a little bit of colour can go a really long way. Just going to add a bit more water just so I can see how it's mixing. It just makes it a lot easier to mix with a bit more water. So it's getting less minty, but still not quite the colour I want. I'm going to put a little bit more red in it. I'm going to put a little bit more of this in it, just to get my quantity up. A little bit more red. Probably put too much in now and start all over again. Like I said, there's no method. It's just eyeballing and saying, oh, it's not the colour I wanted. I wanted a little bit more in this colour, and then just adjusting it according to, you know, understanding what colours make what colours from the primary colours. That was hardly any red I put in there. I don't know. Maybe it'll need a bit more. It's good to wipe your spoon or your stirring stick, because it all ends up at the top, and then later it ends up mixing in when you don't want it to mix in. So I'm looking for a nice base colour that's light, really nice and light, and can complement the top colours. So that's like a grey. Probably would like it a little bit more beigey. I am going to be very daring and add a little bit more yellow, but not too much, because that was really potent. It's getting there though. A little bit more, I think, of the yellow. Feel like you're back to where you started from, but this is just the process of mixing your own colours. Like there's no measurement that I can really go by. It's just eyeballing. It could be fun to watch it change and get it right. But I'm going to put a bit more red. And I don't want this colour to end up too dark, so I've got to be careful on how much I put in. But I'm happy to put a bit more red. Oh, I hope I didn't put too much in. It'd be funny if it ended up the same colour I started with. No, that's actually starting to look nice. Oh, I like that. I like that. I really like it because it's still got that little bit of a purple tinge without it being actual purple. I don't know if you can see that. I love that colour. I am now going to add Floetrol. So I have got a 4 litre can of Australian Floetrol, but what I do, because that's a little bit too heavy to always pick up, so I keep my little bottle and just keep filling it in. Obviously it's a lot more economical to buy a 4 litre one than it is to keep buying little ones, but I keep the container to be able to use. Give it a good shake, because the chemicals inside do separate, so you do need to really give it a good shake. Yeah, I really like that colour. And again, I'm not exactly measuring. I could, because this cup is a measuring cup, but I just eyeball it again. I look at where it is and I just try and double it. And that's my 50% to about there. Still not going to be right in its consistency. I will need to add more water. I really like this colour now, very happy with it. And as you can see, I hope you can see, when I do that, it's way too thick. See how it's just folding on top of each other? So now the only thing I am going to add, all hoping that I don't over add, is water. All right, so I want to get it to a really fluent consistency for my Dutch pour. And sometimes I have filled the cup too much and there's no room for any more water, and I've had to get another cup and make 2 batches almost. But that's just the way it goes. You know, you just got to keep working at it. Always wipe your spoon because the thick paint's still on it. You need to get that blended in there. See, it's not folding as much, but it's still not there. So a little bit more. Always do it a little bit by little bit so you don't end up doing too much. It's a big cup, so I can give it a good squeeze. It's getting there. I just wipe my spoon again. Always go around the edges. You don't know what thick paint is around there, and even the bottom. Like often I've gotten to the bottom and there's a whole different colour down there. So you just got to really mix your bottom as well of your cup. Being cheeky now. It's getting there. I think it's actually looking pretty good. So, but it's still not quite there. See, when I first blob it in, it has a mountain, then it has a well, and then it has a mountain. So we want to just have a little mountain after the well. So if I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it dips in. It's got to dip in first for a while. And when the last little dregs of the spoon falls in, it's got to have just a little bit of a mound. That's the consistency I'm looking for, and all my paints will be mixed the same. There's a little bit of a mound at the end. It's sort of, but it's still a little bit thick, so I'm just going to put a little bit more. It is a process. Oops, spilling. Messy work. So it dips in, a mound at the end. So I'm quite happy with that. I don't think I need to do anything more. That is now ready to be the base colour on a Dutch pour. So I hope you can see that. Wells in, dips in, a little bit of a mound at the end. Yeah? So that's one done. That didn't take long, did it? All right, let's have a look at number 2. Okay, this is going to be the easiest one because it's straight out of the jar and we're just looking for consistency. We all love this colour. Well, I do. It's one of my favourite colours to mix. Beautiful turquoise colour. I've got my ladle or little stirring stick. Not going to make too much, just enough. I have plenty of this colour mixed, so I'm really just going to top up my container. Not much more to do there. Just start doing a little bit of water. Start getting your consistency. Oops. And like when you first mix, you're thinking, oh, it's not blending. Just keep doing it. It will blend. It smooths out really quickly. Just paint and water. Nothing fancy. Clearly too thick. It's not even falling off the stirring stick. Always wiping. Just paint and water. Nothing fancy. Clearly too thick. It's not even falling off the stirring stick. Always wiping. 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 The thick stuff stays on there. All right, it's way too thick. Not much more, we're nearly there. So you can see it dip in. Because it's water, like with the Floetrol, you've got a bit of like stretchy stuff in it. With water, you don't get the stretchy stuff, but you can still see the effect. And obviously, the more you've got in your cup, the easier you can do the testing. But I hope you can see that. It's dips in and it's got a bit of a well. I know it drips at the end. It's only because I don't have enough paint on my stick. But that, I'm quite happy with that. That's going to work. But we're going to show you how we're going to do a drip test later, just to make sure I'm on the right page with it all. So that's easy enough, that one. Now I've got the two colours that I'm going to put together, and I'm using my pearl colour with my normal, just a normal colour. And this is just going to give a beautiful shimmer. Always good to wear gloves. As you can see, I'm only mixing, and look how much I've got on my hands. It's messy work. So as you can see, like the other colour that I poured, the Periwinkle, like I can do that, it's not even pouring out. So the thicknesses are different in every jar. That's why I can't just say, yeah, that two tablespoons of that, and it just doesn't work that way. All right. And this, I can actually pour this because it's quite fluent already in the jar. So I'm just doing probably, it depends on how dark you want your colour to be. So I'm just doing pretty much 50-50 here, I think. Close enough. I'm just going to add a little bit of water because it's thick. It's harder to blend it, so you just want the water to help with the blending. And again, you look at it and you think, oh no, it's looking all lumpy. It won't be lumpy for long. It changes, and I can tell you that is absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shimmer. I'm hoping you can see that. Can you? I hope, yes, I think it's there. That is a beautiful shimmer. Now, because I've got a bit of a metallic in this, the consistency is going to be a little bit different than the turquoise. So anything with a metallic or a pearl, they can't be the same. They have to be a little bit thicker, because otherwise they just disappear in your paint and you can't see it. I don't understand the science of that. I just know that's what happens. I sort of think, if it's thicker, wouldn't it sink? But no, it actually needs to be thicker to not sink. Beautiful colour. Obviously way too thick. You can't even pour that. Still a little too thick. But you've got to be careful. You don't want it to get too thin, so you're really doing it slow. I'm trying not to shake the table with my stirring. Oh, I'm happy with that. Oh, I might just put a little drop. You basically want it to not dip at all, but see, it's kind of sitting on top, but it will sink in a matter of seconds, but it won't sink when you're dripping it in. So I'm quite happy with that. It's well and truly thicker than the turquoise, and yeah, I'm happy with that. So I hope you can see that, because consistency is key. I've got enough light. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's one more. And the last one is going to be a complete metallic and a different brand. And a colour that everybody wants to use. I'm not going to use all of it. And again, this really is just adding water. It's more about consistency than the mixing. So I've got a little bit of water in there. And I'm just going to stir that. You can see the water blends quite nicely. It doesn't take too long to see that it is blending. Beautiful colour, way too thick. Always leave a little bit of paint in your tube just in case you do overdo the water, which I may have done. I don't know, it's a bit deceiving until you actually mix it. Then you realise, oh no, that's about right. Bit thick, but I don't want to make it too runny. Because if it's too thick, it won't blend in. It'll just sit on top of you. When you blow dry it, it just sits on top of everything. Just a little bit more. Nearly there. Oh, I hope I don't get that blue in. That's just come from my hands. All right. Yep, I reckon that's just about it. I hope you can see that. It's hard with the metallics because, you know, they leave a lot more lines or indentations and things like that. I hope you can see that. So thick enough, still runny. Might just do one drop. Never happy. Yeah, I reckon that's good. So there you have it. There are your colours. That would make a beautiful picture on itself. You probably want to add a magenta or something, and that would be a beautiful colour palette for any Dutch pour. So we've got our base, all nice. We've got our pearl and our blue. It's lovely. We've got this, very runny, and we've got our gold. All right, I'll just show you how you can colour consistency test to make sure it's all even with each other. Okay, so to colour test, I just use the back of a canvas label because they're nice and shiny, so it allows them to sort of flow a lot easier than something that's really matte. And I am just going to put, I usually like them in their squeezy bottles just so I can measure a little bit easier, but I'll see how we go. So I just look at, I'll leave the pearls to later because they're a different consistency. I'm going to start with a drop of the base. Now because this is so much more to it, I usually try and do 2 drops. So you've got to try and make them even to each other. Because obviously if one's got more paint on it, it's going to run a lot faster. So try and keep them even. I think it's about even. And then I've got my metallics. Come on. It's better if they pool in together because that one's a little bit on the side, but I'm not too concerned about the metallics. I think this might still be a bit thick. I can already see that. All right, so I get my colours. Oops. And I'll try and turn it around so you can see. And then I tip them. And you get to see, it's like a race. Oh, sorry, you can't even see that. It's like a race. There you go. So that's not bad consistency. I was worried about the gold being too thick. It's actually the blue that's a little bit thick. And as you can see, the turquoise is a little bit thinner, but it's not enough to be concerned about. Anyway, that's basically it. That is how I mix my paints. It's not clear, but it is actually quite easy. You just got to eyeball it. You've got to look for consistency. Try and get your non-metallic paints to be the same consistencies as each other. And then just have your metallics that little bit thicker so that they don't sink and fall away. So I hope that was useful today. Leave comments if I've left anything out. I'm not going to paint with these right now. I mainly made them to top up some of my bottles, but I really just wanted to show you how I mix my paints, and I hope that helped. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what you see. Press that notification button. Other than that, I will see you in the next video with a glorious painting. Okay, bye for now.